Mark, thank you. It is the first day of summer, the perfect time to talk about the importance of sunscreen and the risk of skin cancer before we hit the beach and the pool. This afternoon, we are joined by Dr. Adam Friedman from George Washington University, professor and chair of dermatology. Great to have you.
Thanks so much for having me here.
So what do we need to know and look for when shopping for sunscreen?
Yeah, so some very basic language that is easy to follow. So first and foremost, we want SPF 30 or higher. And I do recommend higher, not because it's necessarily more effective if everything were right in the world, but rather human error. There's lots of evidence that shows that most people don't put enough on their skin to get to that number. So that's why I do tell my patients sometimes 50 or even higher than that. You're going to want broad spectrum, which covers the gamut of both ultraviolet A and B radiation, water resistant up to 80 minutes. But the most important thing is finding one that you'll reapply over and over again, because especially hearing about that temperature coming up, we're going to be exposed, it's going to be hot, and people are going to be outdoors. So you want to apply to exposed areas every 2 hours if you're going to be outside for long periods of time.
All right. And what about mineral-based sunscreens? Is that the way to go?
So I don't think there's a one size fits all for everyone. There's mineral and then there's the chemical sunscreens. They have some overlap in terms of how they work. They can absorb the energy of the sun and dismiss it as heat energy, or they can scatter ultraviolet radiation like the minerals. I think what it comes down to is, again, what plays nice with your skin, what can you apply and it doesn't look white or chalky. And that's some of the issues with the mineral sunscreens, especially on darker skin tones. That's where ultrafine or microfine particles are so helpful, because they're so tiny, they don't scatter visible light, so they become invisible, but they still can rub easily on the skin and they can still confer protection. So it's not one or the other. If anything, combining the two works best. But at the end of the day, the one you use is the one that's going to work.
Very true. And these days, I'm seeing more and more clothing offering sun protection built into the fabric. Does that offer even better protection than sunscreen because you don't have to worry about reapplying it?
So that's a great question, because I think it's not one or the other. I think that we need a photoprotective regimen, which includes sunscreen to exposed areas, clothing that has UPF, not SPF. That's the designation for clothing, and relates to how tightly woven the cloth is to really protect UV radiation from getting through. I think do both. I mean, covering yourself, seeking shade, those are all part of that regimen. But just because you're using the clothing, you're going to have exposed areas. You still do need to use sunscreen.
And what about toddlers and young kids? Are there certain ingredients to avoid in their sunblock, or can they use the same stuff as the adults?
Yeah, so for babies 6 months and below, we say physical protectants, clothing, seeking shade. Above that, I do recommend, like you mentioned, the mineral sunscreens. Those tend to be less irritating if a sunscreen is going to be irritating. So zinc oxide, titanium dioxide. But for those who have more sensitive prone skin or have issues with not so much the actual filters, but even the things that go into the sunscreen to make it a cream, the minerals tend to be better tolerated. And at the end of the day, we need you using sunscreen. So you got to find one that plays nice with your skin.
Okay, and you should be using it throughout the year, not just at the start of summer, right?
Yeah, I think summer is a great reminder to apply sunscreen to exposed areas, but every day is a sunscreen, or even more importantly, a photo protection day.
Okay, good information. Dr. Adam Friedman, happy summer. Thank you for joining us.
Oh.